Hello everyone, this is Vikas and I welcome you all here in this video series of English literature. And today we have a wonderful story to enjoy here, The Swiss Family Robinson. And the novel The Swiss Family Robinson has been written by Johann David Wyss. And when we talk about the genre of this novel is an adventure novel having the setting of a tropical deserted island. And the writer of this novel, Johann David Wyss, was 19th century Swiss writer. This writer was from Switzerland. He did not create much literature but became very famous and popular because of this novel, The Swiss Family Robinson. And this novel was published in the year 1812. And it was greatly inspired by Daniel Defoe's very famous novel, Robinson Crusoe. And in this novel, the author intended to teach his sons the life important lessons, life important values that we are going to see in this session. So let's jump to another slide. As you know that we are not going to learn here the whole novel. We are just going to take a look at the synopsis of this novel. And what is meant by synopsis? Synopsis means a review, a paraphrase, or a brief summary of a story, novel, or movie. And it is very interesting to know about this novel that people all over the world enjoyed reading this novel for more than 2 centuries. That means for more than 200 years. Not only because this story was an adventure story or this novel was an adventure novel, but also this novel taught people the life important lessons and the life important values. Values like self-reliance, that means to be self-dependent, and to have a strong determination means to take a strong decision in a difficult situation, and also to make a prudent, careful, and optimal use of the natural resources. And that we people learn to do now because we understood it very well that these resources are not everlasting but they are extinct. And along with these values, this story also teaches us the real life lessons like natural science, good husbandry, and also how to make use of mathematics in real life. And while reading this novel or while reading this story, at some point you may think that this story is stretching the reality. But whenever you will come across such events of this novel, you should not forget that this is a fiction. This is all about fiction and not a fact file. And you know very well, fiction is always based on imagination, just opposite of a fact file that describes merely reality. So let's have another slide. Okay, let's start the story. And let me tell you that this story is all about an adventure of Robinson family on the tropical deserted island. And this Robinson family includes members like Elizabeth, Mr. William, and their 4 children, which were very young: Fritz, Ernest, Jack, and Franz. And this family also includes 2 dogs, Turk and Juno. And when this family was traveling in the ship, their ship was caught into a great storm. And unfortunately, the members could not evacuate themselves like the other passengers of the ship. And the family had to wait in the basement hall of the ship where the cargo is stored for the whole night. facing courageously the great storm. And the next morning, the family found itself and the wreckage of the ship within the side of the tropical island. So the survivors of the ship decided to get on that island. But it was not possible to reach that island without a vessel, without a boat, without a ship, because the island was not at swimming distance, it was at some nautical distance away. So the family members built a small boat, built a vessel out of the tubs which were available in the wreckage of the ship. And Mr. William knew it very well that they might spend a good amount of time on the island. So they need a lot of resources for the present and future need. So the family members started filling up these all tubs with ammunition, food, and the cargoes of livestock and provisions, and also carpentry tools. So they filled these tubs as much as they could fill and started rowing towards the island, the great tropical deserted island. So with a lot of difficulties and efforts, the family finally reached the island using the boat that they built themselves out of the tubs which were available on the ship. And after landing safely on the island, they started setting up their small camp using armloads of the grass, so that they could sleep well at night. And some other members of the family started walking around the island, exploring it fully. Thus they came across a small grove, a small forest of the trees. And on the trees they found a fruit like a gourd, a fruit with a hard shell. And Mr. William suggested his sons that these gourds could be used to make excellent utensils. So Mr. William and his sons cut these gourds into various utensils like bowls and spoons of different size. After getting settled on the island and spending few days there, Elizabeth realized that their present camp was not only exposed to the sunlight, but also it was very much dry and hot. So she informed her husband to build a tree house so that their family would be safe from not only the sunlight, but also from the animals like the jackal. Here we should try to understand that Elizabeth, the mother of 4 children, was very much cautious about the future threats to her family because she had a great love, great care for her family members. And on the other hand, Mr. William, he was also a good father. He was a great resourceful person. He did not want his children to be left behind in education. So taking this opportunity of building a tree house, he decided to teach his sons the subject like geometry and how to make use of the triangles to measure the objects like big objects, tree. And thus Mr. William and his son started constructing a tree house. Mr. William himself measured the lowest branch distance from the ground, which was 30 feet above from the ground, and set the best practical example for his 4 children. And after measuring the distance of the lowest branch of the tree, they started constructing a tree house. And here Mr. William knew it very well that it would be very difficult for them to carry the material for the house from the distant places. So he built a sledge on the driftwood that he collected from the seashore of the island. Thus it became very easy for them to carry the material to the construction site. And he also made the ladder out of the bamboos that he attached to the tree house to climb it up. So these two are the great examples from Mr. William for his sons how to use knowledge in a practical life. And meanwhile, another important person of the family, Elizabeth, she was not sitting quite in the corner of the tent. She was also tending her garden and producing the healthy plants. And her plants were growing the vegetables and fruits like cucumbers, corns, pumpkins, and watermelons. She also taught her children good husbandry, how to rear and breed crops and animals. So she also put forth the best example of a resourceful mother. While the other members of the family were exploring the island, Fritz and Mr. William were looking for exotic plants which produces waxy fruit so that they could make candles for the light in the house. And when Fritz was looking for such an exotic plant, he came across such a plant which was exuding, secreting the watery solution of rubber. And father suggested Fritz that using that watery solution of rubber, they could make footwears like boots and floaters. So here we should try to understand that they are creating all kind of resources on the island. Here Mr. William had a great foresight, and thinking ahead of winter season, he decided to build another strong house with its strong storage for protecting themselves and their belongings from upcoming winter season. So Fritz came with an idea to build another house in a cave, but they did not find any cave in the surroundings of their present camp. So Fritz and father decided to carve out another cave adjacent to their present camp. Mr. William marked dimension on the smooth face of the rock and started picking away the hard surface of the rock using the tools like chisels, axe and hammer and shovels. Thus they ended up their next house with 4 rooms, each having fireplace and windows for proper ventilation and sunlight. Thank you for watching this video, and in this video we'll stop here, and rest of the story we'll cover in the next video. Until, stay home, stay safe and stay tuned. Thank you so much again.